Okay, today we're going to make a Pac-Man Ghost, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is come to my toolbar and get my fill and stroke window on the side there, and I am going to grab a circle and create a circle. I'm going to go ahead and give the circle a stroke on the outside of about 5. Okay, now I need to get my select tool and the circle selected. I need to go up to path. I'm going to turn the circle, which is an object right now, into a path. Okay, now that allows me to take this tool right here, and I can take these nodes and change them any way I want. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to zoom in by pressing the plus button a couple times. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple of nodes right beneath these nodes in the middle. So I'm going to double click. So I'm going to add a couple of nodes by double clicking. One right about there. And then I want the other one to be the same distance down. So right about here, I'm going to double click again. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay on my node tool, and I want to get those two nodes and these bottom ones selected. So I'm just dragging right now, and I've got all those nodes selected, and now I'm going to grab one of them and I'm going to drag. Actually, I don't want that bottom one, I just want these two. That's what I want. I'm just going to drag that down so it's not really a circle anymore, but it's got this sort of flat bottom to it. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to grab all of these, and I'm going to come up here to this button that's going to add some new nodes. And when I do this button, it's going to add them right in between the ones that are there already. So I'm going to click once, and I'm going to click one more time. Now what I'd like to do is take this node and click on it, and now I'm going to click on this one too, but I want to have them both selected, so I'm going to hold down the shift key and select this one as well. So now I have this one selected and this one, and I'm just going to click on one of them and raise up like that to get the bottom of my ghost. Now I already have the overall shape of my ghost. It's time to start doing some things to make it look a little bit nicer. And we're going to start using what are called gradients. Now gradients are when you sort of blend from one color to another color. So right now I have a pink ghost and the whole thing is pink. It's the same color pink throughout the entire ghost. But you're going to see that if I use a gradient, it's going to look a little bit nicer. So I'm up here and I'm in the fill tab. And right now, like I said, I have a flat color chosen, which means the whole thing is the same color. I have a couple of options. I have a linear gradient and I have a radial gradient. I'm going to choose a radial gradient. Now what you get here is I have pink in the middle, and then I have no color on the outside. So it goes from pink to transparent. And you can see that up here in the fill window. It starts at pink and it moves to transparent. Remember, those gray boxes mean transparent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit. Now the way this works, gradients have stops. The first stop is this pink one, and the second stop is that transparent one. So I'm going to click on that transparent one because I don't want it to be transparent. I want it to be black. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to make that second stop a black color. And I also have to come down here and make sure that this little slider is all the way to the left, so it's not transparent at all. Okay. Now what you end up getting here is I have sort of pink in the middle, and it goes from pink to black on the outside. And what I want to do is I want to take these sliders and you see I can move where that pink starts right here, And then I have these sliders that allow me to change how much the thing blends. So I'm going to pull them out a little bit so I get more pink and less of the black. Okay. Something like that. So now what I get is I get a nice rosy pink on the inside, and it gets a little bit darker on the outside, and I just think that looks a little bit nicer. Okay, let's go ahead and make the eyes. So I'm going to click my select tool and unselect everything. I'm going to grab a circle and go ahead and make the first eye. Now I want this eye to be white, and I don't really want it to have a stroke that heavy, so I'm going to turn this down to maybe 1. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a gradient in that eye as well. So I'm going to go up to fill, and I'm going to do a radial gradient again. Alright, now this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I don't want it to go from white to clear, I want it to go from white to black. So I'm going to, you see I have white on one stop and I have transparent on the other one. I'm going to go to that transparent one, and I want it to be dark instead. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'll zoom in a little bit. And I want that white on the inside to come out a little bit further, so I'm going to pull these handles and something like that. So I still have a mostly white eye, it's just that it has a little bit of gray and black on the outside. It makes it look a little bit more real to me. Okay, so I'm going to grab a circle. Actually, I'm going to click off of everything. I'm going to grab a circle, and I'm going to do the eyeball. I'm just going to go ahead and fill the eyeball with just a black color. Okay, so I'll zoom out a little bit. Okay. And right there I already have one eye, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my select tool, and I'm going to select both the eye and the eyeball, and I'm just going to go ahead and press Control C and then Control V to copy and paste another one. There's no point in making two of them. And I'm going to move this one over here. And I think I might go ahead and move this one a little bit closer. It makes it look like he's looking towards the right when you move the eyeballs towards the right side of the screen. Okay, we are almost there. There's just a couple of final touches I want to put on this. And I want to put a little bit of a glare or a reflection on his head, and maybe one on his little tentacles, and I want to put a shadow underneath him. So those things aren't very hard to do. I'm going to go ahead and grab circle, and I'm going to make sort of a long circle like that. Get my select tool. Now I'm going to click on this one time, and it's going to change it to rotate. I'm going to rotate this, and we're going to put it right up there on his head. Now this needs to be white, so I'm going to go ahead and change the fill to a white color. I don't want to stroke at all, so I'm going to go to stroke and I'm going to click little X. Don't want to stroke. I'm going to go back to fill actually, and we're going to do we're not going to do a radial gradient this time. We're going to do what's called a linear gradient. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going from transparent to white, but I need to modify this a little bit. So I'm going to come down here to the toolbar where I have my sort of gradient button. I'm going to click on that, and that brings up those handles. So you see I have white on one side and transparent on the other, but what I want is I want the white to be up here, and I want the transparent to be down here. And I'm going to push it forward a little bit, like this, and you see that that part of the circle just kind of goes away, is what it looks like. So I'll leave that like that. And I'm also going to do one more thing. I'm going to turn on the blur. So I'm going to blur that sort of white half circle a little bit. So I'm going to turn the blur on, slide it over a little bit, just like that. And when I blurred it, I think it starts to look like a reflection, like the light's bouncing off of his head. Alright, I'm going to do one more of those down here on his tentacle. So I actually might just go ahead and Control C and Control V. And I'm going to grab that. It's going to click so I can rotate it. Actually, more like that. Now I need this to be smaller. Actually, I didn't rotate it right. I'm going to rotate it one more time. And I'm going to move it. Oops, don't want to move him. I want to move this little white circle. Right there to the end of his tentacle. And I'm going to rotate it just a little bit more so it's sort of the same angle as the tentacle itself. I'm just going to move it one more time. Kind of being a perfectionist here. Like that. Alright, we got one more step to do, and that's we want a shadow underneath of our ghost. So I'm going to go ahead and take one more circle, and I'm going to draw a circle underneath him. Now right now it's white, but clearly for a shadow I want it to be black, so I'm going to click on my wheel. There, I can see it much better now. I'm going to put that underneath him, and I'm going to go ahead and lower it so it is literally underneath him, so that he's in front of the shadow. Okay. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this blur way up, like that, and it looks like he's casting a shadow on the ground. And there you go. You go ahead and make one of your own ghosts. Doesn't have to be pink, can be any color you want. But you'll see that just by using these gradients and some of these little tricks I showed you, we get a much more realistic looking drawing than we did for our first attempt. So, thank you for listening.